Angelo Zino, senior equity analyst at CFRA Research, is with us. And as we watch Nvidia, and folks are so excited because they saw Nvidia go down below $100, and they, obviously questioned what's next and felt like doomsday was here, only to see it run back up now, and it's at 133. There's also another story about Nvidia when it comes to AI and Saudi Arabia and deal making and all that. Tell us a little bit about what's on your mind when I say Nvidia to you.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Nicole. And I'd say, you're absolutely right. You look at a couple of weeks ago, Nvidia was definitely left for dead. You look today, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say the overall outlook for Nvidia has significantly improved. And the biggest reason for that is just based on what we've seen on the policy side of things, right? And Saudi Arabia, just what we kind of saw here over the last day or two, is a big part of that. But if you just kind of take a step back here, just for a second, over the last 2 weeks or so, I'd say it really started with Q1 earnings season from a number of the hyperscalers. All of them pretty much reconfirmed 2025 CapEx expectations, where even some of the likes like Microsoft hinted towards higher capital spending into 2026. So that improved the visibility going into next year, which was a big concern for the street. You then kind of move over to the last couple of days with the US-China trade deal, obviously a good thing for hardware and the broader chip space. And more recently here with the Saudi Arabia news, that's a big deal in the sense that there was, we just saw the administration scrap the AI diffusion rules. And, I think there might have been concerns on how the administration would have handled NVIDIA on a country-by-country basis. But now it looks like they're going to use NVIDIA as this kind of bargaining chip, as well as AMD. And it makes all the sense in the world, because the most valuable IP that we have in this country is probably NVIDIA's GPU. So you can now kind of go country by country and almost think about the potential for NVIDIA to be included in more and more deals out there. And that, leads to higher sovereign AI revenue. I'd also say when you start thinking about China, even more specifically, where they were just locked out of because of the H20, it's interesting because now there's the potential for the US and China to come back to trade talks in the next couple of weeks. And then you have to also imagine and potentially consider, does NVIDIA have access to potentially get back into the China market, which we think is possible. So I think all of that maybe is slowly starting to get priced into this market, but we see more upside just based on a lot of that stuff that we just mentioned.
So it's a great bargaining chip. I mean, you explained it so well here. And with Saudi Arabia, you had those sort of the hurdles in the Biden era rolled back. Now we'll be able to have NVIDIA chips supplying processors to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and it sets the tone because they have this joint conference that they had and make this deal. And it's sort of like without NVIDIA, they're looking for it. And so by saying and lifting some of those restrictions, it opens up to so much more. In fact, now we have Saudi Arabia doing a $600 billion investment package. I think that's going to be in the U.S. So that's also, they're talking about the analyst estimates being 15 billion to 20 billion in revenue with deals like this that are happening. So it's good for our American companies, and we get U.S. investments.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely right. And on top of all this on the semiconductor side of things, right? I think what's really interesting is that the administration has this kind of pending 232 semiconductor investigation, which we still need to wait on and see what the actual outcome is on top of that in terms of the tariffs. But the whole goal here, right, is to have more and more of these chips basically built in the U.S. Maybe not all of it. And definitely not all of it, but if you can get some more of it built in the US, specifically some of these GPUs, NVIDIA's GPUs, and then maybe ship them out to regions like a Saudi Arabia, you're talking about jobs being built here in the US, and you're talking about overall higher revenue for a company like NVIDIA, and potentially ways for them to circumvent a lot of these potential tariffs that get embedded from this 232 semiconductor investigation. So there are ties to all these moving parts that are out there right now. But ultimately, yes, I mean, the Saudi Arabia news is definitely a positive for NVIDIA and AMD. They're going to see higher revenue. It's not going to be game changing in nature, but again, it's one piece towards potentially a bigger domino effect that we see here over the next couple of months and years for both of those companies.
Do you buy Nvidia ahead of earnings at the end of the month? It's right now is at 134. What your target is for Nvidia. You said this is good news for AMD, Nvidia, but is Nvidia something? The high was 153 last December. Do you buy ahead of the earnings?
Yeah, I mean, it's had quite a move here, definitely. I would say we're buyers on any weakness, any pullbacks on the stock. That's what we would be telling our investors. So, clearly, when you think about earnings season here, we do think earnings will be a positive catalyst in the sense that, I'd expect to hear more good news than anything from Jensen Huang. You've got Computex also next week that, Jensen will be a keynote speaker here. So, and then you've also got the Google I/O conference next week as well. So there are going to be a number of AI potential catalysts here over the next 10 days or so. We do think most of the news flow is going to be positive in nature. So if you are going to see any sort of pullbacks in this market on the AI side of things, we would be buyers on those news because of the fact that the visibility is absolutely improving here over the next couple of quarters.
I mean, you talk about AI, and Palantir is at a new all-time high today.
Yeah,
I don't know that anybody expected that when not that long ago, this was what, $65 and it's $133 today. Are there other names that you have buy ratings on? It sounds like Nvidia is a buy, right? Any others before I ask further questions? I want to make sure to get these for us.
Yeah, so I'd say on the semi side of things, NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom would be kind of towards the top of the list on the AI play side of things. I'd say if you're looking more on the software spectrum, and we do like software a lot, Microsoft is still a name we do like. Oracle, I think, is another name you can tap into. You mentioned Palantir. Our analyst does like Palantir and ServiceNow as well on the software side of things.
Yeah, understood. What if rates come down? I mean, the idea here was that rates were supposed to come down. That would bode well for tech too, right? I mean, do you think rates are coming down, and does that bode well for technology stocks?
Yeah, I think Sam Stovall is looking for a 25 basis point cut here in July or so. So, we do expect rates to come down, probably more modestly in nature. Especially given what we're seeing on the tariff side of things and on the trade side of things. So, I wouldn't necessarily expect some significant, pullback in terms or decline in terms of interest rate cuts. But that said, you're absolutely right. If we were to see something notable in terms of rate cutting, that is typically a good thing for tech. I'd also say in an environment where maybe you even see slower than expected growth for the broader economy, tech also typically does much better on a relative basis, and investors typically flock and look for that type of growth within the tech sector. So also from that perspective, tech can do very well in an environment where maybe we don't see as strong growth as maybe some had anticipated, because of tariffs.
Yeah, and good news for the group as we've eased the AI chip export rules. We've talked about that. Is there anything else that maybe surprised you? I mean, certainly the impressive comeback off the lows surprised a lot of folks. Anything that even within a company, what they're doing or inventing or whatever, that you're sort of saying, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'd say, as far as Q1 earnings season, I think the one that really surprised us the most was actually Microsoft. And that's one that we keep going back to because specifically when you look at their AI-related revenue within their business, it actually jumped a lot more than we anticipated, which is actually driving the faster than expected cloud growth within their business. And if you look at kind of, the largest, the mega cap names out there, that was probably the best performer, or the one standout name out there. So when we look at that AI momentum here over the last couple of weeks and what we look ahead into the second half and into 2026, that's why we still like that software play a lot. It's because that AI momentum we think is still very early innings and really starting to ramp, we think, in the second half and into 2026. So that's getting us excited across that entire ecosystem.
Yeah, understood. What if OpenAI really does go public? It was on the table, it was off the table, it seems to be back on the table this week, whether it's going to be for profit, go public.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
tell
I
me, are
mean,
you still going to like Microsoft if OpenAI goes public?
Yeah, I mean, we will. I mean, they're going to be frenemies in many respects, and I do think if OpenAI goes public, I think that actually is a positive for again the broader AI ecosystem. One, for valuations, right? Because it's going to come in at a very strong valuation. But secondly, when you think about OpenAI with the proceeds that they get from becoming a publicly traded company, that goes towards stronger investments. So ultimately, that does help the AI ecosystem, companies like Nvidia and AMD as well. Yeah, I mean, we would continue to like the overall play, but Microsoft as well.
All right. Angelo Zino, great to see you. Senior Equity Analyst, CFRA Research. Thanks for being here on the show.